Recently, The Real Punchy made a video discussing the new legendary weapon that was released this Friday, the Imperator's Edge. In it, he argues that this weapon is broken and problematic and should immediately be nerfed, which I completely disagree with. To summarize the arguments of his video, I will be discussing them in two categories. Fortitude scaling should not be added in this game. The weapon ruins build diversity because it requires you to invest 70% of your build to use it. Both of these arguments completely disregard the purpose of this weapon. This weapon is meant to force you to invest 70% of your build to use it because it uses the best weapon scaling of this game and has the highest range. If this weapon required fewer stat points, the potential build diversity would allow people to run with an 11 range fortitude scaling weapon casually. This obviously would be horrible game design, and why the developers made sure that this specific weapon has the highest weapon requirement in the game. One weapon out of the 100 of weapons to choose from in this game that has less build diversity than others will not ruin this game, as he is essentially implying. The description of this weapon alludes to its fortitude scaling and its relation to the 100 legions, which thematically makes sense. In the game, the 100 legions' main options of fighting are fists and spears. Similarly, the Fortitude Unbound quest requires you to get beat up by a legion member named Brutus. It makes sense that the faction with the Fortitude Unbound quest that fights with spears would be connected with this weapon. There are also complaints about this weapon being a stat stick, which I will disprove right now. If we were using the most optimized stats for the Imperator's Edge, which in my opinion is 100 strength, 90 fortitude, and 80 medium, and compared to the most basic shattered katana at 100 medium, both being at 3-star damage, you notice that the Imperator's Edge only has a slightly more damage than the shattered katana, even though the shattered katana requires you to spend less than half the amount of points in the Imperator's Edge, while having a higher swing speed and more pen. This doesn't even allude to the amount of talents that you can potentially get when using a Shattered Katana in comparison to the Imperator's Edge. If I was accounting for that, then the Shattered Katana would easily deal more damage than the Imperator's Edge, even with all the talents that the Imperator's Edge can potentially receive. I'm making this video because I fear the developers will listen to content creators blindly rather than sticking to their guts and keeping the weapon as intended. That's all.